Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wealth Wednesday. I'm Dr. Kalpana Sandar, and with me is my lovely co-host, Marisol Uribe. I think I'm saying it better and better, aren't I?
Yes, you are. Hi, everyone.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Today is a topic that is just so important to me because I see this all the time. And I saw this a lot in the medical profession. So I think that's why it really hits home with me because most people and most medical professionals think that freedom is really about making more money. I think that's everybody's knee-jerk reaction to, oh my God, how and when will I feel more freedom? Well, I need to make more money. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. So this is a very good topic for today. Marisol, do you see this as well?
Yeah, a lot of people listening have already done the right thing financially on paper. More income, better neighborhood, better title, and yet their body still feels tight all the time. Why?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, what is freedom? So I think we have to start with identifying what freedom is to us. And I think that for everybody it could be a different definition. But I think freedom is when you have space in your life, room to breathe, not just making money and not just spending money. So I feel that if your money is not really being utilized to reduce your stress or save time or increasing the amount of choices you have, maybe it's not really doing its real job. That's just my opinion.
Money can solve some problems, but it doesn't change how your life can feel to live. And
True.
so that's where we could get into the like obligation creep versus a lifestyle creep.
Yeah. Two very, very good points because obligate. So that's typically, and I love that you brought that up because typically that's the first thing that starts to happen when people make more money. So I think that in general, people think making more money is going to solve a lot of their problems, but often in turn, what happens is you get the obligation creep and the lifestyle creep. So let's talk about those since you brought those up.
So as income rises, three overheads rise together. One is the financial overhead. You have bigger bills, subscriptions, kids' activities. Another could be the emotional overhead, how you want to de stress after people depending on you. And lastly, the logistical overhead, like more moving parts to manage.
And that
So,
that's significant. More moving parts to manage means more stuff going on in there, which can make people pretty exhausted a lot of the times.
so maybe you're listening. I invite you to notice where in your life did a treat quietly become a requirement?
So true, so true. Because I think that real wealth is really, trying to keep those creeps to a minimum and then having your money actually support your peace, your health, and the decisions about how you want to live your life. But I think a lot of us get kind of kind of derailed into something else entirely.
Yeah, yeah. Because money without structure creates more decisions, not more peace.
So true. And decision fatigue is a real thing. And people really struggle with decision fatigue. I know that I had a bunch of decisions to make because of some life circumstances that happened. And let me tell you, when I got away for a couple of weeks and didn't have to make decisions, I mean, it was really a refreshing period of time for me.
Yeah, yeah, because you're able to break away from the routine and reset. And yeah, more income means more choices. Some people look at different schools, investments, homes, trips, family asks, and every choice is a tiny little tax on your nervous system.
Oh, I love the way you put that. It is a tax on your nervous system. And then I think that makes us really start to take a step back. I think we should take a step back at that point and see what we really want out of our lives instead of what our life may look like to others. Because
Yeah,
sometimes we
because
can confuse the two.
and if you don't have rules, defaults, or boundaries, more income just multiplies decisions and mental load.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And then you think about what would life look like if you used money to reduce the friction in your life as opposed to making more decisions or upgrading things, because all of those things really do take a lot of time. Maybe that's why Warren Buffett chose to live so simply despite the billions that he has.
I like that. Simplicity can remove brain fog, declutter your head, and help you make more calculated risks on the decisions that you do need to spend that glucose on, right? We know our brain operates by energy, and it takes the same amount of caloric energy to expend one thought versus another.
So true, so true. And I even have a personal example I'd like to share. Once upon a time, I had a really big home and multiple cars, and I remember the amount of effort that had to go into all of those things, and my life changed. I knew that for me, a core value was freedom. At that point, I didn't know what that really meant or what that really looked like, but one of the things it meant to me was the ability to maybe move to where I wanted to. And in that moment of my life, it was California. Well, in the move to California, I mean, I had already downgraded from that house to a smaller apartment. And then, I just got rid of more and more and more stuff. And I have to tell you, the more things I get rid of, the happier I am, because I don't know, there's just less mental clutter in my life, and it makes me a lot calmer and a lot more peaceful.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're touching on this because what people are actually chasing is relief, safety, approval, the feeling of enough. And sometimes when you connect on those values of like respect, love, significance, and security, you look back and think, well, maybe I didn't need all those things after all.
Well, those things often represent a sense of safety, but the reality is safety is an inside job. Most people overspend to give themselves a feeling of security and safety, but the reality is that true safety is inside you. And when you have that, it's amazing it's amazing how little I think the more, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the more internal safety I've created, I don't need the external things to give me that feeling of safety because I work on it internally.
Yes, and here's a prompt for you guys listening. If money never changed how anyone saw you, would you still be chasing that next thing you may have in mind before you hopped onto this, to listening this or watching this today?
That is such a fabulous question to end on, and it is a great prompt, and I think it's a great ending for this segment. So, absolutely. Just think about that, everybody out there. If it didn't change other people's perception of you, would you still want it? So it's a question that I ask myself regularly. Sometimes I want something and then I sit with it and I go, do I really want it? Or is it just affecting me because of the way I'm perceived? I ask myself that question on the regular, actually. And it's sometimes surprising how the answer changes even in some time. Like all of us, we're all people that are working on ourselves and trying to be better versions of ourselves. And honestly, that process is never done. So the reality is, as long as we're continuing to do it, that's really where we should be, just in a constant state of evolution.
Yes, I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Marisol, for the wonderful, thought provoking comments. And then we will see you in another 2 weeks for another Wealth Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.